Right, and moving on to a review of issue 46 now, and I am so very glad that we're getting a brown paint, Night Quest or Flesh. It's actually quite a nice colour, this one. It's a tanned flesh colour. It looks good on certain models, I have to admit. I think if you put this on Catechins with a combination of this and Catechin Flesh, it looks great because, to be quite honest, it's a nice flesh colour to have. Obviously it's not full dark skin tones. It's not full blown light skin tones. It's just perfectly, it's like right in the middle kind of thing. Which I like. Anyway, I'm talking about the paints when I need to get on with the actual video first. So, let's have a look at the issue itself, though. It's a paint issue, and I'm glad they're actually pulling up proper techniques now. Things like highlighting. Now, that looks like a paint colour that we got on a previous issue that they never showed us how to use. Here it is, Calgar Blue. And they're showing how to use it to highlight. Know that they're very clearly saying, don't just thin your paints, water them down. Now, I have a wet palette for doing that. However, not everyone has a wet palette. So actually, when I do this, I might get my old style, very cheap wet palette and show you how I do that. But to be honest, by the time you've gone out to a hobby shop, got yourself like a palette to use as a wet palette, to be honest, you can buy wet palettes quite cheap anyway. So just think about that. How to actually use different parts of the brush. So you can use the edge of the brush for certain situations. For edging, particularly when you've got like a very sharp edge, it's good to use the edge. Whereas the tip of the brush, is for very curved parts of the model. And you'll learn as you go along when to use it in the right context. So they're using the Calgar Blue to edge highlight the ultramarines. I'll be using mine to edge highlight my Tyranids. Stormhost Silver, right. So, interesting that Pallid Witch Flesh is on that part of the example of highlighting faces, because I don't believe we've been given that paint, and I can only assume that what they're saying is we will do eventually. Either that, or they're basically saying if you want to do this effect, you're going to have to spend some extra money. As for this, Stormhost Silver, good for highlighting my brain keeps going to sleep. Silvers. That's where I was going, like the Leadbelcher. So if you've got a lot of Leadbelcher on a miniature, you might want to really highlight it with that. And there's a lot in here about highlighting, so you can see that really pushing this is how we do all our highlighting in different places. Quest or Flesh really to create the edges of straps. So that's definitely a cool thing going on. So I'm glad I've got this now, because I am going to do snake bites as an example paint. And what I've got with those snake bites is that I need a lot of leather work. And unfortunately in Stormbringer so far, we haven't had a lot of leather colours. So I'm going to be pleased that we can actually approach that now. Okay. So yeah, we've got like quite a lot of highlights there to do. Oh gosh, I hate this. These are so badly put together, these magazines, aren't they? I don't know what's going on. The machine must be completely miscalibrated and they're not fixing it. Right. A nice little bit there about Brutal but Cunning, our good friend Ghazghkull Thracker. Ghazghkull is a goth orc. However, he's considered to be the most orkiest orc currently alive in the 41st, 42nd millennium. He is the Prophet of Dwar. So therefore, he pulls orcs from multiple clans towards him as part of his massive war, with his Goths taking front and centre, his, Bad Moon contingent bringing a lot of the heavy tech with them, and so on and so forth. I am trying to create my orc clan so that it is an eclectic clan. Basically, it's drawn from multiple sources. I want as many different types of orc as possible. I like here, you see this? These orc boys here aren't the push fit ones. These are actually I think they're the older kit, but you can still buy that kit if you want to. So if you want a wider variety of orcs in your clan, and you really want to feel all shooters or all sluggers, get the other kit and then do some mix and matching until your squads are all armed with one particular thing. The other thing is it comes with an alternative boss. And again, it's just that different pose looks good. They have different head things. So this, you've got things like the ponytails, you've got the skull on a pole. So again, you can actually get a bit more variety on your heads. Right, what else do we have here? My goodness. These guys here, the Beastie, what are they called now? I'm going to call them the Beastie Boys. But basically, they are more savage, more feral orcs, in a sense that they love their big monsters. Again, snake bites. Because I've got some snake bites, if I paint, I'm going to do 10 boys as snake bites, and I've added some fur to them to make them look like they're a bit more feral. But if I get more snake bites, I'm going to make them these because they look great. Now, here is what looks like potentially a orc mech or boy, a big knob, in mega armor, basically the orc version of power armor. In the Evil Sons, basically where you get the speedsters, it's interesting to say I personally don't tend to do models like that as Evil Sons, because for me the Evil Sons are all about speed. They're all about being on wheels and going as fast as possible. So if I was doing something like that, I do want to do a Cult of Speed contingent for my orcs, but if you've got a set of 10 boys, you probably want them to have a truck because that's how they get around. Here we have some grots who serve as the kind of slaves, there's no other way to put it, for the Orc Society. They do odd jobs for them, and sometimes, they'll be forced into battle as a meat screen. And they're quite fun to have on your force with their runt herder. So there's lots of cool stuff to look at in this. Of course, then we have our battle area. Let's have a look what we've got here. Only War, Muster Armies. Looks like it's a very specific mission to do. Dang, these are terribly put together, these magazines. Ooh, special Eldari rules. That's interesting to look at. I like stuff like that when they give you like unique rules. So yeah, that's let's see. Yeah, so I'll have to have a good read through that and see what they actually mean. I'm still trying to catch up with my actual gaming, but it's just so hard when you've got an endless stream of things to get done. So enhancements, objectives, basically for you to actually use in your games. I wish this thing would just, I hate the fact that someone's the machine is not calibrated and no one in quality control has insisted it be fixed. That's just bang out of order as far as I'm concerned. I know a lot of people would say they don't buy it for the magazines, they buy it for the miniatures, but I like the magazines. And I get frustrated when things like this are not right. I know they're probably never going to be collector's items, but it doesn't matter. It's still, you want quality control, don't you, in the end? Okay, yeah, God, I mean, you know, along with the Eldari factions, you've even got, there's a lot to this combat section, isn't there? Look, Eldari combat rules, Space Marine faction abilities, Dark Pack tutorials. There's some really cool stuff in here for both factions, isn't there? Nice. Right then, so that's quite cool. Coming up, 47 and 48, which are the Death Copters. As I said, I've already got some of these. I love them to bits. The push fit models, but I tell you what, as push fit models, they're really cool. There's no doubt about it. I've started painting mine up, as you can see, for Death Skulls. So these are going to be Death Skulls. These ones are going to be Evil Suns, because I like the idea of racing forward in a helicopter. Anyway, so as for the paints you get in this issue, as you can see, so you got a nice mid flesh tone, which is also good for highlighting very dark flesh tones. So if you go for a really, so if you were to say go for a flesh tone, so if you wanted someone's flesh to be Catachan flesh, it's very good to then highlight in layer Questor flesh. As for the silver, that one's core for highlighting your lead belcher. And again, it's a lighter silver as well, which actually looks good if you're doing a silver coloured Space Marine force. If you wanted to do the Silver Templars, you start off with something like that. Right then, so there we go. It's looking really good. We got issue number 46 with some great content. Again, I'm sometimes finding that content wise, the paint issues are more interesting than other issues. I wonder if that's because they are thinking we don't get a lot of demand for the paint issues, so we want to make sure we're selling them, so maybe we pack them out a bit more with content. Okay, so thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you for the next video.